members of another country. Seed grants are funds that are meant for institutions to implement a project within their own countries. There isn't, while we encourage collaboration on seed grant projects, it is meant for localized execution of projects that are meant to strengthen institutions, to strengthen STEM teaching in their respective countries. So those are kind of our pillars or our mechanisms that that I-10 deploys in order for us to elevate the teaching profession in the Americas. And just as a timeline example, cooperation exchanges and seed grants generally take place between November. For cooperation exchanges, it's from November through May, and for seed grants, it's a 12-month period post-award. So anytime from generally November through November of the following year. There are a couple of changes this year, but we'll get there. All right, here's where we are. As everyone is painfully aware, the COVID-19 pandemic has caused a lot of disruptions in our everyday life. One example is the fact that I'm coming to you guys from my own home right now instead of being at an office. And I'm sure a lot of you are experiencing similar disruptions in your everyday lives as well. So what has the pandemic done to I-10 in terms of derailing our activities? Well, we're not able to travel for the foreseeable future. At least we don't think it's safe to do so in any case anytime soon. So we're not canceling necessarily to this year's annual seminar, but we are postponing it for later than August. We don't have an exact date yet, but we will keep you guys informed as to how things change. And then the other thing that's been impacted are the cooperation exchanges. Once again, because cooperation exchanges require travel, and since it's not safe to travel these days, then we will not be offering cooperation exchanges this year. However, we are looking for ways to adapt these offerings to the current situation. So stay tuned, but just so, just to give everyone a bit of a spoiler, we are looking at the possibility of hosting some kind of an event online. We're researching right now how we would do that and if it's even worth doing so, and a couple of other things as well. I'm sure everyone here is aware, but because of the pandemic, we've also started offering webinars weekly. We have at least 1 or 2 webinars from teachers or educational professionals throughout the Americas, sharing with the community what their strategies are for adapting to these tough times. So do check it out. Do go on our on I-10's webpage and see what's coming up for these webinars, because they are great opportunities to learn and share. All right, so which funding opportunities are available at this time? As of now, as you guys saw earlier, I said that seed grants and cooperation exchanges are generally offered or open to the public, or offered after the August seminar has taken place. However, this year, because of the pandemic, and as a way to adapt to the situation, we are opening up the seed grant applications to the project teams earlier. So we would generally open them up to the public in August or September. So it's now May, and we want to make it available for everyone to get familiar with it, just to prepare their applications and submit their applications. And so again, just trying to adapt and looking for ways to support the I-10 community during these times. And we figured Sea Grants are a great way to do that. So what are Sea Grants? These are monetary awards for educational institutions that are participating in the 2020 project team cycle. And it's meant for institutions to implement, test, and or evaluate a program of STEM teacher professional development. So this could be something that you're currently, ideally, it would be something that project teams are currently working on with their counterparts in other countries. But as I mentioned earlier, the funds, the monetary award, is meant for one specific country to implement something within their country. This is not a pool of money that project teams would, work with. It's everyone can apply, and it is a competitive process, but everyone is encouraged to apply from their own home countries. The award can be up to $10,000 for selected proposals, and as mentioned before, it is a competitive process. So we encourage everyone to apply. However, do keep in mind that we do have limited funds. So, make sure that your project is extremely relevant and can really demonstrate value to the teaching community in your country. The goal of these funds is for the awarded institution to, it's for institutional strengthening, right? So we want to make sure that you're able to implement something that's based on on evidence-based models of professional development for STEM teachers, and we believe that will bring about institutional strengthening. The outcome that we expect to come out of the use of these funds is the implementation, testing, and evaluation of concrete solutions to enhance the STEM teaching profession in the recipient countries. As an example, and this is a great example of a Sea Grant that was awarded last year. The proposal was for the applying institution was already thinking about this and had already started to work on this, but they saw the Sea Grant as a great opportunity to implement the plans they already had in mind. So this country had nominated one of their teachers to participate in the teacher fellowship. The teacher went on to partake in great STEM workshops, and they then realized that the teacher had a lot of knowledge that she could be sharing with fellow teachers, and that you can only bring so many people into a classroom or a gymnasium in order to provide in-person workshopping. So the country already had a robust online learning platform. So they figured they would record instructional videos where the practicing teacher would lead her classroom full of students. This would be a day in the life of the teacher and her students, while she worked with students on STEM methodologies based activities. So she'd be leading the students on activities based on STEM methodologies, and these videos would be recorded, edited, and then ultimately distributed through the Ministry of Education's online platform, so that teachers the whole country could have access to, along with lesson plans, and all of the tools that they would need in order to, to take this video and be able to implement similar lesson plans in their classroom. So this is just one example of the kinds of projects that we are looking to fund through these seed grants. There are many others. And whatever you guys are working on your project teams, most likely there's something there that you could turn into a seed grant proposal that that could qualify for a seed grant. So keep that in mind. All right, who's eligible? What's the eligibility criteria for applying to one of these seed grants? Educational institutions. So the proposals must be submitted by one lead educational institution. Like I mentioned before, it can be something that is being worked on by a project team, but and even if everyone in the project team wants to, every institution participating in a project team wants to submit a proposal, each participating institution would have to then apply separately. It has to be from an OAS member state, and the institution has to be currently participating in a project team. So as an example, this could be a National Ministry of Education, a municipal secretary or Ministry of Education, or a teacher training institution. Those are the kinds of institutions that we're looking for. Okay, proposals must be clear, pertinent, and provide achievable goals. So the proposed activities must fit within the framework of the objectives of the call for proposal, and we'll walk through the call for proposal soon. It must be clear, pertinent, and achievable. It must strengthen one or more projects planned or currently being carried out by the institution or government requesting the grant. And the project doesn't necessarily have to be a project that's being worked on through a project team. While we do prefer those, it could also be something that's already underway from a different initiative, or that, a plan that's already in place, but for which there's no funding to implement. So just, there have been many different types of projects that, as long as it fits within the objectives of the call for proposal, it's clear, it has achievable goals, and it serves to strengthen the institution and strengthen the STEM teaching profession in your country, then it's eligible. The proposals must also give a clear and strong justification for why a seed grant is required at this time. So, why is it that you require the funding now? Is it that the institution doesn't have the funding available for that project? Is this a project that wasn't budgeted for, but there's a clear benefit, a clear value that's going to be gained by implementing this project? Then do say so in your application. And in order to be eligible, you must complete the required steps. The proposal consists of an application form, a timeline and budget plan, a logic model, and CVs for any participants, anyone who will be involved in the project being financed by the seed grant. If that person or people are not currently an active participant in a project team, then we do require a CV to make sure that everyone participating is up to the task. All right, how to apply. So in order to apply, you can find the links in two different places. You can go to the I-10 webpage, go to the Policymakers tab. Oh, sorry. All right. Or you can also find, oh, there's something happening here, I'm sorry. You can also look on your community guide, and on page 13, you can find all of the links as well. Let me just double check to see if this link is working, so I can show everyone. All right, so you go to the I-10 webpage and then go to the Policymaker tab. All right, and scroll down to seed grants. Let's see, I was told that it was updated. Let's see. And then here on the right side of the page, there should be links for call for proposals, application form, work plan and budget, logic model. Yeah, let's just double check to make sure that the links are, yes. Okay, so the link on both the web page and the community guide should take you to a Google Sheet where you can see the call for proposal. And there, and again, we ask you, please read this document carefully. I know it's, it's only 4 pages. We've tried to make it as simple and straightforward as possible, but there are, there's a lot of relevant information here that we do ask everyone to read, so that you are aware of everything that, of all the requirements of all the things that you cannot spend the money on, which is important, and all the different documents that you will need to provide if your proposal is eventually selected. So you'll see a definition for the seed grant, the proposal, that it must be submitted by a representative of a legally established education institution of an OAS member state. The award is $10,000 for activities associated with seed grant project. In order to obtain financial support, participating institutions must comply with all of the rules and regulations of this call, must execute a cooperation agreement with the General Secretariat of the US. This is I-10 basically, but that's the, whenever you go into an agreement with us, it's in the name of the General Secretariat before the funds can be transferred. And so here you have a list of the different documents that you will need to provide once, if your proposal is selected. Please make sure to look at the draft of the cooperation agreement, look at the draft of the annex 1, the schedule of payment. Basically, this is explaining that, what all the responsibilities of each parties, but it's also describing that we will make payments in 2 installments. First installment will be for 50% of the total amount awarded, and it will be dispersed to the bank information or whatever it may be provided by the institution. And then the second installment will be dispersed only upon the presentation of certain documents that will be defined once, depending on each proposal. But basically what this is saying is the second disbursement will happen once we see documentation of the project at least being underway. So keep that in mind. Please do look at these documents very carefully so that you know what to expect and what kinds of documents you're going to need to sign and have, whoever it is that needs to sign within the institution do so. Let me go back to the presentation so that we're not going ahead of ourselves. So like I said, please go there and get, if for some reason, any reason you can't find the link, you can't find the call for proposal, please reach out to me, reach out to Allison or Rebecca. We're more than happy to help you out and send the links to you. Once again, read all of the information carefully, everyone. Take the time to read the call for proposal. Before you start the application, familiarize yourself with the application form, with the work plan and budget form that we ask you to fill out before you start the actual application process. Step 3 is ideation. Brainstorm project ideas that would elevate the quality of STEM teacher education in your country, state, municipality, or institution. Step 4 is look for partners. We ask that you try to find additional support, financial or in kind, to support the project. I didn't specify this here in the presentation, but we do prioritize those applications, those proposals that present, that also bring support from additional support. So if you are a representative of your Ministry of Education and the ministry is able to provide, I don't know, you want to put together a set of training workshops for your STEM teachers, and that's what you want to use the money for. So if you can get the ministry to agree to provide, let's say, the meals for the days that the teachers will be participating in training, we look very favorably upon those applications. So whenever anyone brings additional support for that project that they're applying, then we prioritize those applications. Step number 5 is to set up a call with me. It's very helpful to discuss the idea, the proposal with us. I mean, I put myself there, but it doesn't have to be just me. It can be with Rebecca, it can be with Allison. We really just want you to reach out to us, help us understand what it is that you're thinking about doing, allow us to help you maybe narrow your ideas a little bit more, help you define your goals a little bit more concretely. And it just, quite frankly, it helps us understand what it is that you have in mind, because sometimes it doesn't necessarily come across as well, or definitely not as passionate as it often is. And so we find that it's very useful to have a call before you submit the application. Step 6 is to complete all of the documents. Again, fill out the timeline and budget plan, logic model, and the application. Before completing the we ask you that you fill out the timeline and budget plan, as well as the logic model, before starting the application, because you will upload those documents onto the application form in order to submit. Please don't send anything to me via email, because things can get, if you submit your application via the application form, but then send, the budget and the logic model in separate as separate documents, it can get a little bit messy. I understand if you have if you experience technical issues, but if you do, please do let me know ahead of time so that we can try and figure out what's going on. We really encourage you to have all of the documents submitted with the application form, so that we don't run the risk of, misplacing a document that you submitted to us and then be pestering you about it when you've already sent it to us. So try and even if you do have to send the application form in PDF format because for some reason it's not working, which we shouldn't have that problem, but you know, stranger things have happened. Once again, when you go to email either myself or Rebecca or Allison, preferably please email me because I'm the person who is in charge of keeping track of all of the Sea Grant applications. Please do email everything together so that, again, we're not misplacing your documents and then disqualifying you for not having all the documents when you actually did have it. Important dates to remember. So we're having this webinar today, and today is when we're actually opening the call for proposals publicly to everyone in project teams. Tomorrow we're going to have the same presentation in Spanish. On June 30th is the deadline to submit the application and all of the supporting documents. So we have between May 13th and June 30th to submit an application. July 15th, okay, so based on our previous experience, we often had, maybe it's because last year we had a much shorter window of time for folks to work on their applications, but we found ourselves wanting clarifications on a lot of aspects of the application. So this time we're building that, you know, that time into our timeline. So even if you do reach out to us and have conversations with us ahead of time before submitting your applications, we will likely still reach out to you after we've done a first round of evaluations to just to clarify things that we might not be, you know, very clear on. And then July 31st is our deadline for announcing the recipients. So we plan on announcing on July 31st everyone who has been selected for an award. And if you are selected, you will be receiving a letter from us detailing what the next steps are, which documents you need to, you know, to provide. But again, ahead of time, please do know that it will be a cooperation agreement that you have the draft of on the call for proposal, an annex which details the terms of payment. We will need a vendor form if you want to receive the funds transferred electronically via bank, or if you reside in a country that has an OAS country office, there's another way to do it too, which is to get the disbursement by check. We would just send the payment through the OAS country office, and they would then contact you to let you know that there's a check there for you to pick it up. All right, that was my presentation about seed grants, and this is the time that you can ask me questions. And just know that this is not the only time you can ask me questions. Again, please do reach out to me about with any questions you have. Although I do encourage you to read everything first before you reach out with questions, because for the most part, you will find answers to a lot of your questions on those documents that I mentioned, the call for proposal, and then the other documents that are embedded on there. Okay. This is my first time using the webinar version of Zoom. So let's see if I can figure out how to. Rebecca, if you are on the call, I would welcome you to help me field the questions, because for some reason I'm clicking on the Q&A and it's not showing. I'm sorry, guys. Give me just a moment. Okay, guys, I am really, really sorry, but for some reason it's not letting me, or maybe if I leave the sharing mode, it will let me see the questions. Okay, so I think I'm able to see the questions
Hey, give
now.
me 1 second.
Okay.
Did you want to talk? Sorry, I'm on a second call.
Is another iteration or another justification or honing in on a small detail.
Sorry, I had myself on mute. I figured out how to find the Q&A. So first question, for the cooperation exchanges, are funds available through I-10 or is that internal? I'm not sure what that means, but we do, that's usually also offered to project team participants. But like I said, this year, we're not offering cooperation exchanges at all because of the limitations in travel that are in place. I'm looking at documents, but I am curious about time frame for implementation of Sea Grant project, more specifically, the end time for the Sea Grant project to be completed. That's a great question, Danelle. We generally like the projects to be implemented within the 12-month window. This year, I mean, this year with both applications from last year as well as with applications for this year, we understand that things can change and things have changed and plans have been interrupted. I understand that, you know, for some folks, projects, their projects from last year was to host workshops for teachers in their school districts, and we just can't do those with the pandemic going on right now. So, you know, if that's putting a delay on your project, we understand. Just make sure that you're in constant communication with us. Oh yeah, and this is another thing that I forgot to mention. If you are awarded, we do ask that you maintain a monthly check-in with me or with another member of the I-10 team. Again, I'm usually the one that is managing the Sea Grant, so you most likely be bothered by me asking for us to set up a call, but I will be setting up calls at least about monthly to just to check in, see how you're doing, how things are, you know, moving forward. Can I submit in English a Sea Grant project that will be carried out in Spanish? Yes, absolutely. Yeah, we work in, technically the OAS works in 4 languages: Portuguese, Spanish, English, and French. Rebecca is learning French, but I don't know that we have the full capability to analyze a project proposal in French just yet. But in any other three languages, you can submit a project proposal and we will consider it. And it doesn't matter if it's, submitted in Spanish but carried out in English or vice versa. It's all good. How many awards do you anticipate being awarded? We're not sure, Padu. Thank you for that question. We're not 100% sure at this point because it all depends on how many applications we receive. Not everyone asks for the full $10,000 because, again, in order for you to request a $10,000, you have to be able to very, in a pretty good amount of detail, tell us why you need that money. We request that you, on the budget template, you will see that it requires you to list the activity and the timeline of the activity, as well as how much you anticipate spending or that activity costing. So, because we say we will award up to $10,000, it doesn't necessarily have to be $10,000. If you can carry out a project that you want to carry out with $8,000, then apply for $8,000. We do ask that you justify all of the money that's being requested, essentially, is what I'm trying to say. So we don't know how many are we're going to be awarding. Can we submit more than one proposal? I'm very glad you asked that, Claudette. Short answer is yes. Long answer is if you're thinking about submitting more than one proposal, we ask you to let us know which one you would like for us to prioritize, because keep in mind that we would ideally like not to concentrate funds in any one specific geographic area. So, if you submit two incredible proposals and for some reason not many other people did submit proposals and we have the funds available, we might be able to fund both proposals, and we would love to be able to do that. But the reality is probably not. We probably will only be able to fund one. And so we recommend that you focus on making one proposal as strong as possible. And even if you do think that you can submit two very strong proposals, please do let us know which one you would like for us to prioritize in case we can't award both. We have Glenn Larson asking, I apologize if you said this already, but are there any restrictions on what the funds are used for? No, I actually did not go into details on the restrictions, Glenn, so thank you for asking. That information, once again, you will find in the rules for participation. Let's see, I think I stopped sharing my screen. Let's see if I can do that again. Okay, share my screen. All right, okay. So on the call for Sea Grant applications, that Google sheet I mentioned earlier, if you scroll down to rules for participation, number 2, financing, we established that funds may be requested to support costs directly related to the implementation, testing, or evaluation of a proposed project. So again, this directly related is a cue that we want to see exactly where the money is being spent. But all expenses must be justified as necessary, and Sea grants cannot cover the following expenses: institutional staff salary. So, if anyone from the institution is going to be working on this project, the funds cannot be used to pay that person's salary, or it cannot be used to pay salaries at all. We can talk about if you feel very strongly that you require an exception to this rule in terms, to pay for an expert to give a workshop on something, but this would have to be talked about with us at I-10, so we can make a decision about if we can or not make an exception about that. It cannot be used for alcoholic beverages or excessive food costs. We understand that if you're going to host a workshop to train teachers on STEM methodologies, or that's just an example, that you would want to provide food for them, to them for the day, the time that they're there. And we understand that it should be a small percentage of the overall costs that are listed on the budget. So please keep that in mind. And this is a great area where we think that getting, additional support from the institution or your Ministry of Education, or even a local organization, company, is, can they provide the food for an event that you guys are putting together that's being financed by the Seed grant. Again, if you can do that ahead of time and get the commitment from someone that they will be supplying the food or supplying anything, the support doesn't need to be in financial terms. It can be in kind. It can be with goods that they are providing. The funds cannot be used for conference travel or registration. So I think that's pretty straightforward. Or international travel for participants. So an exception to this is, once again, if you are putting together a training for your teachers, and you have teachers particularly teachers that are in rural areas that don't usually get an opportunity to go to trainings, or usually the trainings require that they pay for it themselves out of pocket, and they can't afford it. That kind of travel expense we are willing to authorize, but international travel, no. And yeah, international travel, unless there is an extremely good case for that. Okay, let's see what other questions have come in. Okay, also, sorry. Oh yeah. I hope I answered your question, Glenn. Let me know if you have any other questions. And again, these are this is a great example for why we want you guys to reach out to us and let us know what you're planning on submitting as a proposal ahead of time, so that we can talk about these things. And then if there's something that is not listed on the call for proposal and you're not sure, we would like for you to reach out to us, have a conversation with us, so that we can figure it out together. I have another question here from Watson. You mentioned the preferences / importance of additional support. I was wondering if that support also come from an institute such as an NGO? Yes, absolutely. We don't have much restriction regarding where the additional fund can come from. Obviously, we would love for the institution to be somewhat related to education, but it doesn't necessarily have to be the case. Like I said, even if you can get a company to help support the project in any way that they can, is valid. We would like, though, on your on the proposal, we would like that, again, on the budget, there's a column. There's a column that says how much money are you requesting, how much are you getting in additional funding from other sources, and then the total amount that's being requested for the project. Can two countries having a same goal split the funding with a third partner? Two countries having a same goal split the funding with a third partner. So are we talking about splitting the money 3 ways? Is what I understand. Please do let me know if I'm not understanding this correctly, Padu. Again, if you decide that you would like to partner with other countries or other institutions to institutions from different countries to apply for the seed grant, we ask that that each institution or each country apply separately. So, for example, if the United States, okay, I'm going to give an example of a project team that I'm relatively familiar with. I know there's a project team underway with the Pima County Superintendent's Office. Please don't, Danelle, please don't be mad at me. But anyway, it's a school board in Arizona is working with Honduras, if I'm not mistaken, on a project team. So in the case, let's say if, for instance, they wanted to apply for together for funds for a project that they're both working on, but Arizona would implement the project in Arizona and Honduras would implement the project in Honduras. We ask that each institution apply separately. So Danelle would apply for however much money she thinks that she's going to require to implement the project in Arizona, and Honduras would then apply separately for the same way. Again, these funds are meant for the country to implement the project, and by country I mean an institution. I guess the final goal being, these funds are meant to strengthen institutions within a country, to strengthen the teaching profession within a country. And so that's why we ask that everyone, it could be the same exact premise of a project. Your goals could be very much the same, but they're going to be implemented by definition in different countries. And so that's why we ask that you provide, that you submit separate proposals. Okay, I think there are more questions on the chat. Let me take a look. Can the teacher education institution submit a proposal distinct and separate from the Ministry of Education? Yes, absolutely. So if you have a Ministry of Education participating in a project, representatives from the Ministry of Education of your country or city or state, participating in a project team, and you represent a teacher college, a teacher training institution that's separate from the Ministry of Education, but you're also participating in a project team separately, you can definitely also apply for the seed grant. Again, we ideally would like to not concentrate funds in one area, in one country. But again, these are competitive funds, so we are open to receiving applications from anyone in the project team who's interested in applying. Does anybody else have any questions? I think I've answered all of the questions that came through on my on the Q&A application here, as well as on the chat feature. Does anybody else have any other questions? Oh, okay, Padu. So you meant two ways. So one project, two countries applying. Yes. Again, as long as they are separate applications, and we will just treat each country separately. So if you have two countries working on one project and both institutions want to implement that project that they're developing through the project team, absolutely, just please do submit separate applications. I mean, the applications could be very similar, and they most likely will be similar. You can even work together as a team to work on the to create the application, with the difference that if you have one institution in the US and one institution in Mexico, for example, the cost of things will be different, right? So just keep that in mind. Keep that in mind, that when it comes to the budget is when things are going to look a little bit different for the two applications, but there's nothing wrong with working together as a team on the applications. Okay. Well, if nobody else has any more questions, I will end the broadcast. I don't think I might have forgotten to give my email address to everyone. My apologies for that. I'm gonna write it here. I'm gonna type it here on the chat. My email address is pmoraes, PMORAES @oas.org. But in any case, if for some reason you don't remember my email address, or you need to reach out to me and you don't have my contact information, but you do have contact information from Allison or Rebecca, just go ahead and ask them for my contact information. I have another question here. When would seed projects begin? Oh, I'm actually really glad you asked that, Claudette. So we anticipate announcing the selected proposals on July 31st. That being said, we have cases of applicants who were awarded in the last round in November and September, October of last year, and we still haven't dispersed the money, but mainly because of issues within the institution. So especially if it's a government institution like a Ministry of Education, or keep in mind that there can be a lot of delays with that process. Let me back up a little bit and say that as of the 31st, if you receive a letter from us saying you have been awarded, July 31st, if you receive a letter from us announcing that you have been awarded a seed grant, what's going to happen next is we will have to sign a cooperation agreement. There's a draft of the agreement on the call for proposal. Again, I highly recommend that you read it thoroughly and find out within your institution who would have to sign that document. It is a legal document that needs to be signed. So, and all of the information that needs to be filled out is in red in the document. So what's going to happen is once we send you the letter saying congratulations, you've been awarded a seed fund, you would then fill out that document and get it reviewed by your legal department and by whoever is the signing party within your institution to say if it's a go. And once they review it and they're okay with it, they're all set, then you send it back to us. We have to then have it reviewed by our legal department again. The draft is already approved by our legal department. However, they want to make sure that no major changes were done. Once the legal department reviews and approves it, which generally takes between 1 and 2 weeks, we have to have it reviewed and approved by our finance department, which can take a little bit longer sometimes, not necessarily, but it's generally between 1 and 3 weeks. And then it has to be signed by our executive secretary. And then once the agreement is signed, we need to do the payment, the payment procedure, the transfer procedure, and that would require that we have all of the information that we need from the receiving institution in terms of bank accounts and whatnot. If you are receiving the money via a direct deposit on a bank account, please keep in mind that our finance department requires a tax registration document. Here in the US, I think it's called a W-2. I think it's called a W-2 here in the US. In other countries, I'm not sure what it's called, but it's generally as a legal entity is the document that you have that says that you either pay taxes or that you're exempt from paying taxes. Tax registration document. So once we have all the documents in hand and the agreement is signed, then it's usually no longer than a week for the payment to be made. But in my experience from last year, I would say it's at least 2 months from the date that the award is announced to when we can actually make the disbursement to the receiving party. So then I guess it's up to you when the project actually starts. We had folks last year who submitted, and basically the disbursement was taking so long that they went ahead and did some of the activities that they had planned for as part of the proposal, even without having received the funds. And then we have other institutions who just couldn't do anything until the funds were transferred. So we asked that the project be implemented within a 12-month period from when the award is announced. Once again, just if you think that won't be possible because of delays in getting the payment, be it on our side that the OAS was, taking too long with the agreement or with the actual processing of the payment, let us know. We're flexible and we understand that, things happen. It is ideal, and it does say on the agreement itself that we ask that the project be implemented within a 12-month period. And also, please do keep in mind, this is also something that I forgot to mention in the presentation itself. As of last year, or as of March this year, when we could still travel, we, as I-10, tended to go and participate and not participate is the wrong word, but to be present generally when either cooperation exchanges were happening. Like, for example, we had one between Medellin in Colombia and Rosario in Argentina, and I went myself along with both teams to both cities. The purpose for us doing that is, one, for us to also learn. Two is for us to be able to capture the story of what's happening, because we ourselves as a project have to provide reports on our activities and where we're spending the money that we are given by the State Department of the United States to execute this project. So that's why we go along to cooperation exchanges. So we're not there to just, for fun or to spy on you. We're actually there. We're required to be there and work and see what's going on. And we also want to do that for cooperation exchanges, not cooperation exchanges, I'm sorry, for seed grants. So we like to keep an eye on when activities are going to be actually implemented as part of the seed grant, so that we can hopefully try and be there to see at least a portion of it. This year, again, we don't know if that's going to be possible, but just keep in mind that if you are awarded seed grant funds as part of seed grant and you have activities going on, we might ask to be present when you do carry out those activities. So when the project would begin is essentially dependent upon when the money is able to be transferred, when we're able to actually make the transfer of the money, and when the applying institution is able to put together whatever needs to happen. But we ask that it be done within a 12-month period. Oh, and at the end of the planned activities, the activities that were proposed as part of the seed grant, we ask that you provide us with a final report, and there will be on your award letter, you will have an outline of what we request that the report include. And in addition to that, 12 months after the conclusion of the project, so 12 months after you're completely done with the project that you submitted a proposal for, we would like to do a follow-up survey, also as part of our own monitoring and evaluation activities that we have to do for I-10. All right. Does anybody else have any other questions? Let's see if anybody else. W9. W9. Thank you, Padu. It's a W9 is the tax document for American organizations. Not a W2. A W2, I think, is for individuals. All right, everyone. Well, if there are no more questions, I will. Oh, we just got another one. How will the recording be shared? Had the wrong time zone. No worries. I'm sorry you missed it, Lynn. On the web page for I-10, you might not have been here for the explanation. So you can find the application by going to the I-10 web page, and there under the tab policymakers on the right hand side. Well, under the tab for policymakers, you will see a section for seed grants, and then on the right hand side of that section, you will see links for call for proposal, application, and the supporting documents that we require. And last year, Rebecca also posted the recording as well as the slides for this presentation right under those links. This year, we're also I'm also going to include it in the newsletter that's going out at either end of this week or early next week. I don't know if you are in the mailing list. You should be. If you're not, make sure to email me with your email address so that I can include you in the mailing list, and I will include the recording there as well. Okay, but regardless, do reach out to me with any questions, any questions you might have. Please do let me know. All right, guys, thank you so very much for joining us today. I really appreciate everyone taking the time to be present today, and we look forward to getting your well, first of all, I look forward to speaking with you before you submit your applications, but I look forward to learning about all the very exciting and cool projects that you guys have planned for the seed grants. All right, thank you so much. Have a great night. And again, if anybody wants to attend this in Spanish version tomorrow, you're welcome to do so. Same time, 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. All right, take care. Bye-bye. Oh yeah, there's a 6 p.m. webinar sponsored by I-10 as well. Don't miss that. Take care, guys. Have a good night. Bye-bye.